In this video, I will talk a little bit about what else we can do with analytical shaders in Blender. So we have here the mat cap. Now we know we can display various materials on it, and when we rotate our object, this is very useful to observe how smooth my surface is. We also know we have the zebra to identify maybe noises somewhere, but that's more or less basically it. Another analytical shader, kind of standard in all NURBS-based, so more traditional industrial design modeling programs, is the Curvature Map. Curvature Map, for example, talks about how does a surface bend. And Blender actually has something very similar to this and actually quite usable. So let me show you how that works and where we can access it. I will hide this. This actually all we put into rebuild. I go to trim, and here I will hide everything besides this surface. Okay. So when I see this and go into edit mode, now I can pay attention to. So how does this bend? How does this bend? And I can trust my eyes, and that is where the problem is. We can actually already identify from looking at this here that this area is a little bit flatter, and then here something bends, and then there it gets flatter again. Also here we can see something kind of like goes up. Same there. Now we pushed it up there. You either can see it or you can overlook it. And the problem is our eyes really can be fooled a lot. So let me show you how we can visualize how the surface bends. We are in edit mode in viewport shaded, and then we go to overlay, and here it is, shading mesh analysis. So this is actually made for 3D printing when you want to check for an overhang or something. And in our case here, this is super useful. So we turn on mesh analysis. We want to go to sharp, and I have very small values here, -5 and 5, for example. And you can see that the whole object is kind of colored in green. You might not notice that there are some differences already on it. They're very subtle, for example, here and there. So what happens when I select this edge and move this up? Here you can see how the colors change. The colors basically define how quickly does the surface change or bend. Blue and red are red is actually concave and blue is convex. And there you can see how this goes. Then I select this and go down more. There you can see how this now is totally red. And when you take a look from the side, you can see this actually makes very much sense. We can play with the minimum and maximum value. So here, if I go with minimum even more down, and with the maximum, play with this a little bit, there you can see even more. Something is going on here. This is all science, that's fine. This actually is kind of bluish. This goes up. This is not the same blue. So now we can try to figure out, well, what can I do to make this the same color? Can bring this one up, or maybe both. Okay, very gentle there. So you see now this is actually a little bit better. It's not perfect. There's still a little bit of the blue left, but the color now tells me that in general the bending is actually much better. You might remember we moved this actually to the right, to the left. And then now you see when we push this down or up, the color tells us how the surface wobbles. Okay, so in this case, actually, this is quite good. Let's take a look at another object. The bottom, for example. That's also pretty cool. Why is this gray? Gray means this is clipped outside the value, so it's not the max, it's the minimum. What colors I have here doesn't really matter. I slide this around simply to get a gradient on the surface and then start understanding where are problems. So when I go to here, pretty much this tells me this all bends kind of uniform, but here it bends the most on these corners. Again, this is not bad. This is just an analytical shader. So when I select this and move this out, then there you can see how this adjusts it. So the colors from here to there is pretty much the same, or from there to there, because, well, it's pretty much the same. And here when we zoom in, you see that this and this color we have there, but then this is blue. Why? And it's pretty easy to understand. Look, I'm just drawing a contour, and you see, and then from this bends. So here again you can see how to actually interpret the colors. So the colors here are the same because this is more straight, then it bends, and then the surface gets straight again. Here also this is a little bit yellowish. Well, why is this yellowish? Yeah, I mean it just only bends down this way a little bit, and we pushed this one up. But then here, these edges we also pushed in this way. Okay, cool. So for those who are familiar with curvature shaders in Inventor or so, that's pretty much the same. And for everybody who is not, I hope that this little demo kind of like gave you a good understanding of why not to trust your eyes and rather trust curvature maps, because then this can give you the readout about how good a surface is. And that's it. Oh, actually, no, it's not. One thing I forgot. Let's go to there. So what do we do with objects which are, for example, having a Boolean modifier calculation to it? Because what I see there in terms of geometry, that is not the actual object. Here and see this is the cube. This is actually very easy. We go Control C, Control V, so we make a copy. And Shift H, hide everything else. Rebuild there. So hide and hide. Actually, all this was not super nice, so let's delete this one more time. Select this, maybe Shift D and escape. This is easier because it only makes a copy of this object and does not make a copy of all the other linked elements. Sorry for this. So let's hide all the other stuff. And here now we say apply and apply and apply. So we created, when we go into edit mode, a mesh body. And now here in this mesh body, we can check everything and see how does this look. Now the top is actually here pretty good. Down here, there we can see pretty flat bends a lot, and then it gets flat again. And if we look from here, yeah, that's the way how it is. Pretty flat, starts bending, bends a lot, gets flatter. So that's the only downside here of this mesh analysis tool, because this only works on a mesh body. And in our case here, we needed to create a mesh body by applying all the modifiers to a copy. Now, this is really the end of the video.